Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Silver Tears Tarot, and welcome to the monthly. Actually, this is going to be the month refresh for August. So, we did the general monthly refresh yesterday, and now this is going to be the one that's dedicated to messages around the soulmate cycle. So, we're going to do it as a general reading, of course. We have, it's always going to be a general reading, but it's for this collective. So if you find that it does resonate with you, then you may be part of this collective. So you may want to check out some of the other messages that have come before. You may also want to think about subscribing. So we'll go ahead and get started, and we're going to look at, this is going to be the same reading, same questions as yesterday's reading. So we're going to look first at the energetic and emotional backdrop for the rest of the month. So this is really that backdrop for the rest of August. We've got that Knight of Wands. So the Knight of Wands came out in yesterday's reading as part of the clarifiers, and it was that ability for you to really be able to move towards something that you want. This is kind of that energy that's here too. And remember, a lot of that was being influenced by things that are happening in astrology, things that are happening just because you're at this point in the cycle and where you are with your lessons. There's a lot culminating here in a pretty exciting time here in August. So that's kind of what we're seeing, what we're looking at. But let's go ahead and take a look to see what else will come out with this. As far as, nope, not that. Additional clarifiers. It was a very hard driving, moving forward, even in the context of things being a little bit challenging, but it was a very vibrant energy. That was one thing that I will say. Very vibrant. So we've got the Empress, the Ten of Pentacles. Are these all part of it? Let's see. The Magician definitely is. Judgment is too. Okay. So there is kind of, again, it's that same kind of complication. We've got really intense, ready for it energy coming in with this Empress. And with the Ten of Pentacles, this is a sense of, we saw in yesterday's reading that you may not understand everything it is that you want, but you do have some very important pieces pulled together. And so some of it is relevant to things that you've already built in your life, relevant to things that are already happening in your household, in your living environment, work environment, just the environment where you live. You are kind of on top of the world with regard to just feeling like you're in your element, even though there are crazy things going down and you don't have control over all of them. So with the Magician, that's showing that you really don't feel like you have control over the situation. But that's okay. I don't get the sense that this is a bad thing. And with the Judgment card here, what I like about this one is something hasn't passed judgment. Something needs to change, but you're on it. Like you don't even miss a beat. Don't even miss a step. And this is energy that is very much flowing between you and your person. So it's shared energy. I'm talking about it like it's you, and it is incredibly strong with you, but it's also got your person in it. I would say it's probably, like, if I had to give it percentages, 70-30 you, but your person, that's still pretty strong in them. I don't see a lot coming from them, to be perfectly honest. I mean, not that they might, I get the sense that they could communicate. I've been feeling like that. But I also get the sense that they might kind of, it might not be bad. So we've had where they communicate and then they end up kind of riling you up, getting the energy moving, and then they disappear again, or even some pretty good conversations, but have just kind of started to peter out and not be what was needed because they weren't coming in healed. There is a little bit of kind of new truth coming out and also not being acknowledged. So the High Priestess here in the upright, or I'm sorry, in the reverse, sometimes it's around that connection with the intuition, and in this case it's not that. It's actually secrets coming out, or new truths that are being exposed that are actually fairly new. They do feel pretty new to you, but with that, you're not as capable of managing those truths or handling them. For some reason, there's something in here that buffers you against them, or otherwise makes it difficult for you to hear. So you end up, oh, I wish this Ace of Cups was for you, but you end up like putting the truth off to the side. So it's kind of it's not necessarily something that has just become true, but it is something that is new to you. So it's exposed, new information comes out, but you're not ready to accommodate it yet. So it sits off to the side and doesn't get your focus right away. This is something that's both you and your person, again, heavier within you. Then we've got the King of Cups and the Ace of Cups. So the Ace of Cups was staring at me out of the last shuffle, and I felt like, I don't know if this is supposed to come back. But as you guys know, I just go ahead and employ my trust in the universe, and I put it back in there, and I realize if it's supposed to come back out, it will. Sometimes we see that it does. But with the King of Cups here, this is a feeling of it's integrity without complete trust. So this person has integrity, or this energy, because it's energy that both you and your person share, has integrity, but doesn't necessarily trust others quite the way that 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 I'm trying to figure out, like, what's the best way to describe this, because there is an opportunity for you and your person in this soulmate situation to communicate, and you have an opportunity for fruitful communication. And it feels like it comes in here in the second half of August. I mean, you can never be sure about time. You could have that, it could have shown up a couple of days ago. It could show up a couple days into September, but it's part of that energy. Like, they could be showing up in a very different way than what they have before. But there's this feeling about them, like there's an edge of mistrust, and there's definitely an edge of mistrust as it relates to you. Like, I get the sense that you don't necessarily trust anything that seems like it's coming in, whether it's the new soulmate or your soulmate that you've been getting the readings about. There's something about it that you're just not too sure about, and you're not ready yet to hand over your complete trust. Okay, so with the Emperor in reverse here, this is an interesting feeling, because what I'm kind of getting from this is almost an inability to let down the guard, a need to control, an inability to unclench the muscles, a need to keep things going. And this is you. Like, this is more you, and it's something that I would usually more associate with your person. Trying to keep things on balance and juggling when things are a little bit out of, when they want to go off balance, is not necessarily unusual. However, for you to take this response to it and just kind of be pushing control on it like that, I would just watch for this, because it feels like something that could easily become out of control because of the extra pressure being put on it, if that makes any sense. Okay, so let's take a look then at what is mostly in this energy for the second half of August. It's interesting to see that energetic backdrop, the emotional backdrop, but now let's see what else it is that you need to know. There's still very much a living out loud sort of vibe to this. Despite the fact that you still kind of feel like your hands are tied, but there's something about celebrating not having to be in control of something, or celebrating being able to set a burden down. This is kind of, it's a big deal. So the 10 of Wands here is setting this burden down. You see it here in the reverse. Instead of him hauling this burden of Wands up the stairs, he's actually knows he's not going to make it with that, or that it would weigh him down in a way that he feels is unacceptable. So this is a matter of setting down the burden, or the portion of the burden. And this is something that's been coming out for some time. How do you figure out the portion of the burden that is appropriate for you to set down? Because if you're responsible for it and you can impact it, and it's something that you can change, that's one thing. Like, go ahead and consider including this in your burden of things that you consider or think about. But if you can't do anything about it, set it down. And so there's a big celebration of that feeling that happens here. It's like the feeling of going on vacation. Some of you may have some vacation or holiday time set up for the month of August. But what I get here, that's not uncommon. I could say that and it would be true of a lot of people. But what I can say is that you actually are able to utilize that time for disconnecting and the break that it is. So I celebrate it by all means. Celebrate dropping the things that you can't be connected to or you can't control. By all means, allow that to happen. You've got a Two of Cups here that says there's something that's naturally not going to connect, but it's going to be. It doesn't have a bad feeling to it. It feels like it's okay that things don't necessarily connect specifically in this situation. However, it's especially good that it doesn't, because it's something that you'll have another shot at. You're going to have another shot at it, and you're going to have more information when that time comes. I get the sense that you will be more prepared for it as that time comes, when it comes around the second time. So it's kind of a good thing that it doesn't come around when it does, or it doesn't become more, I guess, prominent. You're okay with something not connecting. You may not even realize that it's not connecting. It's one of those things that you're not worrying about because you can't impact it anyway. It's totally the right thing. Even though it's a Two of Cups in reverse, I'm going to go ahead and say that's a positive thing. You've got the Four of Wands in reverse too. So one of the things that we saw in yesterday's reading was the Four of Wands coming in the upright. And I want to be clear about what the difference is between those. So with the Four of Wands that came up in the upright yesterday, it was, hey, there's this change that you need to make within your life. It's very personal, but as you start to make that change, you're going to be supported by something that feels like a new stability being added to your foundation. It was that kind of feeling. So here, though, this plays off of that. You do have some change that you need to make. You do have something that you're engaging in, and you're being able to feel kind of the stability that comes from it. But this is like a new ability to handle something that is less stable because of what you gain in dropping this stuff that you don't control. So there is still a sense of a painful ending in here. It's a painful ending that has not resolved, and you're able to see the edges of it. I think you were encouraged to find the edges of it in yesterday's reading, and it was something about, the Five of Pentacles came out, and it was, can you find a way to find the edges of your healing? So we have a bunch of cards that fell out, all face down. This is you finding the edges of your healing by becoming triggered by something. You have to enable that to happen. This could be the new soulmate that's coming in. It doesn't necessarily have to be the one that you've already been interacting with, especially, or the one that you haven't been in some cases, especially because if that person does come in towards the second half of August, where we've got that Mercury retrograde getting started in the last week of the month there, which we could start feeling that shadow period that kind of precedes it pretty much any time. That could bring this person in, but I don't necessarily think that is the extent of triggering that you would expect if the person comes in. You may not even hear from that person, because some of them will be able to resist the draw, especially if they have taken pressure off by coming in here sometime earlier in like April, or here in the last month when we saw another group of people that came in. I feel like you will see people start to come in here again toward the end of August just because of that retrograde energy. But there's more than that. There's also going to be this additional soulmate. There's also going to be just other people that manage to get through to you in an emotional way that you aren't anticipating. We have this Ten of Wands, though, in reverse again, and we've got an Eight of Pentacles in reverse. It's a celebration of not needing to have it all together. So here we have, again, the setting down with the Ten of Wands in reverse. It's that same energy that we have up there. It's setting things down that are like, you know what? There's actually nothing I can do about this. I'm going to go ahead and let this go. It's that kind of feeling. But also realizing and being real with yourself. And this is part of that Four of Wands instability. Getting real with yourself and seeing, here's where I'm okay with backing away from this responsibility, and here's where I'm not. Because there will still be, it doesn't just all happen at once. There will be some places where you still don't feel quite right backing away from that responsibility. So we've got the Queen of Wands here in the reverse. This feels like something slowing down. Something slowing down to give you a chance to get yourself caught up. And here I get the sense of you getting caught up and being maybe more caught up in some place than you've ever been in your entire life. It's like, when I would have babies, the way that I would get and I work, in a corporate job. And so I'd get my emails down to almost nothing, which is the only time that would ever happen in my life is when I was about to be out on maternity leave. It's that kind of getting caught up. There's something here where you resolve something within yourself. It doesn't have to be something that you can check off a list. It can be something where you've been trying to work through some kind of difficulty for some time and it's been a challenge and you get through it here. Then we've got the Ten of Cups. This Ten of Cups thought about coming through here in the emotional backdrop, but it actually probably belongs here more. I felt like I needed to set it aside in case it were to come out in a different place. It is coming out in a different place. You have something really positive happening here. Nope, we want all of them. Something very positive happening here, but there's not a lot of shape around it, not a lot of clarity around it. It just feels like you're moving in the right direction in the second half of August. It feels like you're moving in the right direction so much that you may start to question it a little bit. I would encourage you to just let it roll. There is a sense of things not necessarily being super clear and feeling like you need a little bit more clarity, but you're not necessarily going to get that clarity within a timely manner. Your best bet is truly just to kind of roll with this. Enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that you feel like you're moving in a right direction. And this is an emotional right direction with your person. So there may be some of that, some of the sense that the two of you are much more spiritually connected, or you could start having some good conversations toward the end of the month that actually feel a little bit calmer and a little bit more like you're moving in a direction that you would have thought you'd move earlier, but it just hasn't worked out that way. I feel like that's gonna be that way for a few of you, and you're just gonna wonder like how it was ever any other way. And then there will be others that don't hear from their person at all, but there's still kind of this copacetic sort of gliding. It just feels like gliding. The energy glides together in a very comfortable way. This has a comfortable feel to it. Okay, so it feels like there's going to be communication from several groups of your people. There will be some that don't come in, and it'll be because of one of two things. Either they are able to get past the attraction that brings them back to want to be more connected with you and to want to be close. Then there's also going to be the group that recently took the pressure off, and that's why they're able to not come in. But you may still hear from somebody that you have been talking to intermittently all along, or who you heard from back in April and you haven't heard a peep since they blocked you back then. All of a sudden this is when they come back. But it feels more comfortable. It really does feel like the energy is more comfortable. And remember, that energy has been sitting pretty much on top of where you are since April. Late April, when everybody started coming in that last Mercury retrograde, it became like the energies came very close together, but then a lot of the people kind of scurried off again. But the energy stayed. And so they're still here. And so that there's that comfort, that feeling like there's already an established connection, more so when they come back. So that'll be an interesting one to read about, I think, as it happens. Let's go ahead and take a look into what that means for you, what you should be focused on, given everything that's out on this table, given everything that I've said. Where should your focus be during the second half of April? Or I'm sorry, not April, August. The Queen of Cups comes out here. Okay, so you were asked in yesterday's reading and in today's reading, it kind of came back up, to understand where you are in your process of healing. It's about figuring out like how triggered you're going to be when you meet new people, when you try to engage in new connections, when you try to engage in a connection with your person who comes back, And so there is going to be an element, you're going to learn some things when you do this. You're going to learn where you're healed and where you're not. This is, I think we need to figure out what this means, because this feels like you're looking for things to kind of not really go wrong, but you're looking for patterns of thought in yourself that you have outgrown, or you would think you have outgrown, but you haven't had a chance to use the lessons yet. There's change coming. With this Wheel of Fortune, there's change coming and an opportunity for you to investigate this. So there's new people coming your direction, and you're going to be triggered by them to become a little bit closer, and you're going to discover that injury that was created in the situation with your person. So you're not necessarily going to be as forthcoming as you usually are. So you've got a little bit of that to work through, to open your heart. There's something that you're not wanting to let change, but really it's not quite time for the change yet. It feels like it's hanging over your head. It seems like when it gets here, you're going to embrace it. So I don't feel like this is a bad thing. I just feel like you're okay with it taking its time, and you're in no hurry for this change to make its way to you, but it will be making its way to you. But when it does, you've got kind of a healthy curiosity approach to it. We have the Seven of Cups in reverse. And so there's, oh man, sometimes I see the card that comes behind it and I wish that was part of the reading, and it isn't. It doesn't feel like it is, and I have to set it back down, and I definitely would rather not. But the Seven of Cups, that is not one of those. That is one of the ones where you have some options. It's not clear which direction to move forward, partially because there's some wisdom that you don't yet have. So as this Two of Cups opportunity comes to you, and for some reason it doesn't quite connect up, it ends up being okay, but you're going to feel a little bit flustered by it. It's another one of those situations where, and we've seen this in the August readings so far, the August full month readings that we saw at the beginning of the month, and then we saw it again yesterday. There may be some kind of struggling in here, but it doesn't necessarily it looks pretty good as far as your position in it. You end up looking good in this struggle, ultimately. Okay, so we have the Eight of Wands in the reverse. Eight of Wands in the reverse is the slowdown. It's a slowdown, but it's a temporary one, because generally there's actually a lot moving you this month. There's a lot moving you throughout the month, but every once in a while there's a ceasefire. There's a little bit of a slowdown that seems like the purpose is to allow you to pull yourself together and figure out what you've learned so far. This is going to be really valuable when it happens, because you're going to discover that you're being pulled toward something greater, something that is it doesn't negate anything that's going on in your life or any of the options that are there, but there's something really special about what you're being pulled toward. And so as you have these kind of smaller towers, you're going to notice that they are ultimately moving you in a really positive direction. But it's not just positive because there are new things happening here. It's also positive because there's you're getting freed from something. So the Devil energy is something that controls you and kind of holds you as a prisoner. This energy in the back half of August has you being freed from something. So that is really significant. But it's freeing you, and you're starting to see the clouds clear, so that this Seven of Cups energy that has you bobbling things and feeling a little bit more pressure, starts to resolve. So that's very positive. This is an honorable mention. It's not part of the reading at this time, or at least I don't think it is. But the Page of Swords here is also an incredibly positive, if naive, approach toward these new things. So you're going to feel like the clouds are parting and everything kind of moves toward a better place, a deeper, better place that is more suitable for you for some reason. Yeah, you find it more suitable. You find it to be more appropriate for you. It fits better. You realize something about yourself, but you got to be careful that you're not falling into another trap of ego and saying, I am this now, because something, has changed in your 3D life. Just be careful about that, because it's an easy mistake to make, and to get connected to the ways that that you have done things in the past. You've got the Page of Pentacles here, which says there's a lesson that still has to be learned, and it's one that's hot on your heels. You've got a lesson coming your direction that just kind of hasn't managed to catch up to you yet. But it's going to, and it's not a bad thing, but it is something that is associated with, so this is interesting, it's associated with that thing that you weren't wanting to allow to change, that we saw coming up over the past few weeks over and over, but it isn't that. Okay, so it's trouble on the path to this change that you need to make. So if you're trying to quit a habit, if you're trying to quit smoking or drinking or something, this is like the energy of a relapse. Don't worry, don't let it slow you down. One of the toughest things when you're trying to quit smoking or drinking or doing something is you get this stretch of time where you haven't done it, and then if you do it, you like lose your streak and you mess up. And there's this feeling of discouragement that just kind of makes you say, well, it's not worth it. Now I'm just going to go back and that, and do it. And so the thing is, maybe think about reframing that a little bit. Maybe think about saying, all right, so if there's a relapse, that's exactly that. It's a relapse, but you keep counting and say, I've had 1 week moment, I mean, but you get to keep the previous 2 weeks or whatever it is that you've gone, so that if there is a moment of weakness, it doesn't have to bring you all the way down. It's like the way you handle being able to exercise consistently. Give yourself the same grace here and understand that sometimes relapses do happen, even if you go into it with this attitude that you aren't going to be one of those. And this is really about forgiveness, self-forgiveness. So this is a Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles is often around, it's an energy of self-worth, of nurturing, but this is like self-nurturing. So it's like we were just talking about. It's about if something doesn't go exactly the way you want it to, be gentle with yourself. And here's that Six of Swords that reminds me of this Eight of Wands up here and talks a little bit about things slowing down enough for you to be able to see where you are, figure out maybe the connection between the lesson that you're trying to learn and the resistance that you're having with it, because there's something like we saw in yesterday's reading and we've seen several times. There's something in this situation that doesn't want to change, or that you have been having resistance to changing. There's something about that you're not seeing. There's something that is beneath the surface. So figure out how healed you are and then see what you can do to understand what's beneath that surface. So we're going to stop here and go into the extended. And in the extended, we're going to look more deeply into what you can expect across the rest of this month, both for you and with your soulmate, because it looks like there's some activity that's brewing here. But it's a closeness and a comfort associated with that activity. Meanwhile, you're working through something that's kind of big over here. So we'll look a little bit more into those and get the big picture for the next few weeks here, or the couple of weeks as we're wrapping up the rest of August. And then remember, tomorrow we're going to get in and look at what the energy around this new moon. And after that, I think we come back with a look at what's happening with the third person energy, because I suspect it's time for us to be looking at that. And we were just talking about that a couple days ago. All right, so I'll see you in the extended if you'd like to go there. The link is down below. Otherwise, I will see you tomorrow.